Good day, all of you fantastical people out there. Yeah, I said fantastical, okay? This show, I'm going to give a tad bit of an introduction to set the stage for today. This show is obviously, from the title, you can tell it's about education. Me and Lee, we try to do this another monumental, crazy topic that is vastly affecting all of our lives. And we point out statistic after statistic to try to see that there's something wrong that we're trying to put our finger on. And we try to offer solutions by not only self-reflecting, but looking to other people and looking to other countries for answers. It's never wrong to self-reflect. And the problem and the thing that scares me the most in this generation that's coming is even if you are able to pull yourself up by your bootstraps, is that enough? Say you can tackle any adversity that comes your way, and you are built for a college or you are built for a first world education, and you do go through all the work and all the struggle, but yet you still fail. And at the end of the day, it wasn't your failure, but it was a system's failure. How terrible is that? And I know that's had to happen to one or two of you out there. I know. It had to. Because I believe and I want to live in a world where, based upon your knowledge, based upon how your work ethic is, based upon how tough and smart you are, you should be able to succeed at whatever you want without any system dragging you down. So we try to address the topic. Please listen to the show. This is another very important episode, along with climate change. These are huge topics of our time that, of course, I can't do justice for in an hour show. I can't do absolute justice of what I really, truly want to do, but I can try to open up dialogue, and I can try to get some of you people out there to give insight to me on the issue. I can try to start dialogue out there so we can try to start solving the issue instead of being completely divided and separated in our ways. So please, like the show, subscribe to the show, follow me on Facebook at facebook.com, Generation Rising 1. Follow me on SoundCloud at Generation Rising. Let's get this topic going, and I hope you enjoy the show. Really, I love you guys. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to episode 10 of Generation Rising. Before I get into the show, I got a couple shout-outs that I want to give out there. Thank you, Baby Steel, for helping me out and recording the outro to my show. I appreciate it. Much love towards your brother. I appreciate the help from Alex today and trying to help me out and make an ad for the episode, which will come out within the next week or so. And I want to thank my guest, Lee, Mr. Lee, for being on for the second time. And we're going to take on another huge topic today. And just to give out a little information, we're just trying to start a dialogue here, okay? So we see that we have an issue with our education system. And me and Lee are just trying to understand the components and why this is happening. There's a lot of statistics, there's a lot of data to back this up that for some reason, if we stay on this main trajectory with the education system that we have here in the United States of America, that people and fathers and parents like myself are going to seriously lose sleep over the sight and of the mind of understanding how we are going to put our children through college. It's a huge thing. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that college is for everybody. You know, if you want to be a tradesperson, if you want to just do regular stuff and you don't want to do that, it's not for everybody. It's not meant to be for everybody. But for those who have that certain understanding and want to be lawyers and doctors, it should be affordable. We should want in this country to educate our citizens to the fullest. We should want them to be the most smart. We should want them to be the most applicable and the able to compete in a worldwide global workforce. So with that, Lee, you've already introduced yourself. The people already know you, but just for the people who haven't heard, introduce yourself, and then let's tackle this huge issue of education.
All right. Okay, so I'm from Mississippi, believe it or not, Central Mississippi area.
Oh, I don't believe it.
Yeah, well, same worldview as my contemporaries in my area, but that's because I read. You see, and I find that when I meet other well-read people, I'm more in line with them than I do your average redneck in Mississippi. Not to say that every Mississippian's a redneck, but there's a population.
There's a substantial market for that, right?
Right. Well, yes, absolutely. It's pretty big. Like not too long ago, there was a flag rally outside of the Capitol building.
Oh shit.
Yeah, we're talking Confederate flags all over the place. Not a good sight.
The same people yelling that they love America don't understand the fact that these people tried to overthrow it. But hey,
Right.
whatever. Anyways, yeah, man. So I know you know this really well. Obviously, you're going to college right now. You have a lot more statistics and data that I want you to discuss with me. I want you to tell me things. I want you to start a dialogue. And I want other people out there to get in this dialogue because, I mean, education should be before war. It should be before the market. It should be before a lot of things because I really feel that it is. There's only one job for us as a people to do, and it's not to tell the world about Jesus. It's not to make the most money and die. It's to make sure when you hand over the next torch to the next generation, you don't just like give them a pile of trash and tell them to go work with it. You at least try to polish the pile of trash, and you at least try to act like you were trying to do something good with it instead of just being, pointing fingers and casting blame and being divisive and all that bullshit that goes along with being a human. But we can transcend that. Wouldn't you agree to that, Lee?
Yeah, I definitely do agree with that. I like how you mentioned before war, because you see, when it comes to these things, you have to have your priorities. Obviously, you have to pay for something before something else, and there's like a hierarchy of priorities. I think that I think a country should really have, and you know, war isn't at the top. In fact, I think you have to have a pretty good excuse to be paying insane amounts for conflicts in, for example, Syria. Like, I have a feeling, I personally feel like if the U.S. wasn't heavily involved with Syria, my life would be no different.
Right on.
It is. So, yeah.
Well, here I got a little fact here. Let's put things in perspective for people because I mean, with every single topic, it's so easy for the mind to just kind of gloss over and the eyes to gloss over and just not think about things because, I mean, frankly, these are issues of our time that need to be understood in relative terms that we all can understand. So the president's budget request for 2017 included $69.4 billion in discretionary funding. Now that was an increase of 1.3 billion over the 2016 appropriation. So I want you to try to put that in perspective and tell me some of the things if you know that we spend money wise because I just realized we just gave we're giving Israel over the next 10 years $38 billion dollars in military funding that's funded through the taxpayers. Am I right about that? I don't know how you feel about that, but I just don't understand why we just keep doling out money in all these different ways. But for some reason, we got a Congress and a Senate that if you bring up plausible things that you should invest money in and be like, hey, let's do something with the education system. No, we don't have no money. Okay, well, let's do something with healthcare. Oh, we don't have no money. You know what I mean? But when it comes to war and when it comes to dominance and when it comes to money making for huge corporations, they have unlimited amounts of money that they can flood their way.
Right. Yeah, the thing about Israel, I'll just touch on that real quick. The U.S. has, for the longest time, possibly since Israel's existence, been given extremely high amounts of money to the country, and it's not something I'm against per se. But yeah, like for example, that's okay. That's one example. But there are others. Like the U.S. gives foreign aid to lots of other countries, and that amount adds up. And so like let's say we give a certain country country several $billions. That's great, but we really need to put our billions into things that could potentially help the entire population of this country before we're worried about, some African dictatorship. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah. Well, what about that Pentagon spending that you were talking about earlier? I mean, that was a huge amount of money that you were talking about.
Right. Okay. So, in 2005, Pentagon and related spending was supposedly 598 billion, and it was 54% of all federal discretionary spending.
Holy shit. So over half of our budget is going to military and defense, correct?
The discretionary
The discretionary
portion of the
spending.
budget. Yeah,
Yes. Okay.
that's. I mean, imagine if Okay, so according to the Atlantic, and now here's the thing about this article by the Atlantic. It might not be taken to account some variables, like for example, if college were made free and completely subsidized, you could argue that everybody and their brother would be going to college, and that would increase, how much it would take overall.
Yes.
But I don't like to deal with counterfactual information, so that's a very real possibility. But even then, it can only go up so high.
Well, so we both agree that there needs to be more money put into education, then, right?
Yes, I definitely, or at least more efficient, because I mean the government has a lot of great programs, and like Pell Grants, for example, and it does help a lot of people. But something has to be done, either better or more money needs to be put into it. So yes, I agree.
So yeah, we can definitely agree on that topic. But then we understand, like, for example, there was a big news whole thing in the whole news sources and talking about ITT Tech, how it was shut down. That's a for-profit college.
Yes.
Now, I agree there needs to be more money in education, but like you just said right now, you believe it needs to be definitely introduced more efficiently.
Oh
And introducing and flooding money into a for-profit college that is okay. They're number one, they're for-profit, which is crazy to think about. Number two, they're heavily subsidized by the government. I mean, heavily subsidized. So, I mean, these things are in essence paper mills because they churn out all these students with these degrees that, like, they kind of drive down the market value for these certain degrees, like, in many certain cases.
yeah. Yes,
They make
you're
them they
you're
make them
right.
essentially worthless, right? I mean,
Well, to an extent, you see, that is a technical college, so the degrees you get there might not be available at every other college. So there is a certain degree of that, but when you got these technical degrees, there's a far smaller amount of the population going for them. So, but like when it comes to something like ITT Tech, that school, if you look at its graduation rates, you can see there's a huge issue. So it's less than 20%. I can't remember exactly where it's at, but we're talking less than 20% of people who attended ITT Tech actually graduated. So the government is funneling money into these students who don't graduate from that school because quite frankly, from what I've read and heard, it was basically a shit you know school altogether.
so okay, so we have 80% of the okay, their students not passing. Do we have any kind of data to show like why that is? What it
Oh
is?
man.
Is it coursework? Is it shitty facilities? I mean that's a big number. So I mean, obviously you can easily point to that and be like, something's definitely wrong with the situation here.
I don't know why it was so bad. I don't. I do know that I've heard a story from one for-profit college where, and this was on John Oliver.
Funny as hell.
Right, he
Fantastic.
is
Yeah.
truly. Okay, so basically, I can't even remember where it was. Maybe I don't know. But anyways, they went to a Scientology related place instead of actually going to a place pertaining to the subject they were studying. Yeah, it
Wait, what
was.
do
I
you
think it
mean?
was. Okay, so like, I'm pretty sure it was a psychology. A trip for psychology majors. And I've never been inclined to go on a college field trip, but apparently they do happen.
Oh, right on. Okay.
Right. And they went to a Scientology building for you know,
Oh,
yeah,
shit. Okay. All right. Oh, wow.
yeah. It gets pretty fucking bad, man. Like these for profits were. I always suspected they were, just awful. Because I mean, look, the whole thing is, their tuition's incredibly high, but the students aren't really paying that. It's the federal government is assisting students like it does at every other school. But if the education's shit, then you might. I mean, it's. I don't begrudge the government for cutting off, the weakest links.
Oh, yeah, obviously to save itself some money. I mean, yeah, if we're talking in certain situations than that. Now obviously another thing that we're saying that we're all seeing is the tuition sky is skyrocketing right now, and you have some pretty crazy statistics to show how bad it's skyrocketed.
Right.
But a lot of people, they will, before we even get into the numbers of this, and I actually am wondering this myself. I don't know, I'm not an expert in this area, but I'm just trying to understand. They blame a lot of the high cost of tuition due to overhead costs. Like they blame
Yes.
like professor salaries, professor and faculty benefits, obviously electric and gas to run the whole entire maintenance, building maintenance. So I mean, but that's a lot of the naysayers. Okay, and I don't know who's right, but a lot of the naysayers for education reform are arguing in favor of the tuitions being as high as they are on the basis of the overhead costs. And can we go into the numbers and can we try to figure out does that add up? Is that maybe a factor in this?
Well, you see, the overhead cost has gone up definitely, and I'll try to find the exact statistics on that. But as the years go by, new things they become mandatory for every college in the country to meet federal standards, and the overhead does go up. But you know, it's I'm not sure the issue would really make subsidizing undergraduate tuition impossible. I think when you look at like the cost of a year in Iraq or Afghanistan or a foreign military base, even then I don't think if the government were to fully subsidize tuition, it would really even be close. To be honest with you.
Okay, so yeah, right on. So okay, so we just figured out a fallacy and there's talking points that once again, when it comes to certain things in this country, we have absolutely no problems throwing money into it, even if it doesn't prove fruitful.
Right.
We show a discretionary way of doing things in that regard. So you can debunk that. Now throw me some of these statistics out and like how much tuition has gone up and is there an inflation rate or what's going on over here?
Okay. All right. Yeah. So I compiled some of the most disturbing stuff, and my source for this is USNews.com, which seems pretty legit. And their source is
Now Lee, on this show, we don't have any good sources. It all has to be conspiratorial. If it's not from Infowars.com, I don't want to hear about it.
well. If you want to do an episode on Infowars.com, I would be happy to.
Yes. I'm glad. Okay, there we go. Hell yeah. All right, keep
This
going. That's fucking
fun
funny.
stuff. All right, but yeah. So, oh, really, truly, it is. But from 1995 to 2015, and honestly, if this stuff puts anybody in disbelief, that's okay. It should, because I barely believe this, but these are the statistics. Okay, 95 to 2015, the average tuition and fees at private national universities jumped 179%.
Holy shit.
Yes, that's private universities. Okay, so okay, out of state tuition and fees at public universities rose 226%.
Oh man.
Yeah, let's stop there for a second. Okay, so I mentioned this before, but you see, the way it's set up in the U.S. Is so that if you're a state resident, you get the state tuition rate, and if you're from out of state, you get the out of state tuition rate, and it's disgusting, really, how much more you have to pay if you're from out of state. Not only do you have to pay for your cost of living in a new state, or well, another state, not the one you're a resident of, but in some cases you have to pay 3 times as much tuition.
That is absolutely insanity because you would think, okay, number one, when you're talking about a college education, and there's massive benefits to getting out there in a different state where you didn't grow up in, and going to a different college that probably is maybe even better than any schools that your state can offer. So I don't understand why you're being well, not you personally, but the whole world, the American citizenry, is being blamed on for wanting to travel. Why should there be such a high tax on wanting to travel to another state to go to college?
I don't understand it either. Based on what I've heard, and apologists, what they've told me is, so states want to keep their students inside their borders, so they offer these reduced rates, but it's just awful to me, really.
Okay, right on. I mean, okay, yeah. When we're talking in that regard, I can definitely understand a state trying to hold its greats because I mean you probably would have a lot of good talent sucked out of your state. I suppose if you're California or New York or some major state with a lot of upper colleges, but at the end of the day, I mean, I don't hear any of these free marketers out here talking about, well, then let's have an awesome competitive market for education. No, it seems like we're lazy in that regard. Oh man, I don't want to come up with a good idea to reform education, but I sure know how to make a good gun that we can shoot at the range later. It's just like, why the fuck are our priorities so fucked up in this country? Like, shouldn't that be the place of ultimate interchange of ideas? Is our education system? Shouldn't every state want to fight to have the best university? Shouldn't every state want to fight to be the smartest state? No, no, we want to fight to have the most factory jobs in the state, and we want to fight to have the biggest, the nicest roads with the coolest paint on the fucking streets. But we're so like not really truly 100% in educating people, and I think that's offensive to people like me and you, Lee, because me and you, we're not the only people out here that we try to think and we wonder and we fucking struggle to understand what the hell is going on in life. There's a lot of us out there, and I think it offends our intelligence to all of us, to millions of us out there. It offends our intelligence to the fact that for some reason, it's just whatever, college, whatever, education, whatever, man. It's just it's a daycare for our children. No, it's not. It's a fucking incubating fucking place where my child is supposed to go, and at the end of the day, it's supposed to come back and be a fucking better person. Like, we should put a lot of trust in our education system to understand that there's a lot of problems, and we went over it in the climate change podcast, where we are coming upon, this generation is coming on some of the hardest problems in the history of humanity. And if we don't have an education system that can battle you and make you think about these world problems, to make you try to solve these world problems, then we are failing. And we're not just failing as a nation. It's not just about a nation. It's about a species. It's about a fucking species. We're the top of the food chain for a fucking reason because we can use our minds. And if we're not putting everything in our body to be able to use our minds, then in my opinion, and it's just my fucking solo opinion, we are fucking failing. We are failing as a people. Fuck. So that's my rant right now.
Oh, I agree with everything you said. I mean, I've said it on numerous occasions. Like, if you look at the higher education, well, the cost of higher education in numerous other countries. I mean, Germany is the most obvious, where tuition, as of 2016, there was a time when there was like a minuscule cost of tuition, but it really was incredibly minor. But now it's literally free, although you do have to pay certain other expenses, but they amount to like almost nothing really. Transportation costs and all that. But yeah, like in the U.S. you might have to pay. Let's okay. So obviously it depends on where in the U.S. you are. Like it's the range is incredible, really. Like some colleges might cost 44,000 a year. Others will cost 12,000 or less.
Yeah, right on. I mean, and that supposedly is gonna. I mean, you like we all agree. We pay for what we get, essentially. I mean, if you want a nice car, obviously, you want to get a fucking Volkswagen or something. You know what I mean? So, in essence, I would suggest you pay for what you get in the education system. Don't you agree?
Well, to an extent.
Maybe not.
Uh,
Maybe
well,
not.
here's the thing. Like, I feel like a lot of these extremely prestigious schools. Like, okay, here's an example: Vanderbilt in Tennessee. Its tuition is an order of magnitude, like just incredibly high in comparison to other schools in the state. And honestly, I feel like most likely the classes offered there will be the same as the classes offered at the other colleges, and you'll probably learn the same stuff. So.
Okay, right on. No, I can definitely agree to that. I mean, I wouldn't say, for example, that like a certain college would have the automatic authority on a certain topic, which I don't know, man. I really got to think about that more because that's a really cool thing to think about. Okay,
Right. Well, yeah. I mean,
maybe.
there are prestigious colleges that offer classes that you won't find other places, but
Well, what do you mean? Liberal colleges, they want to teach me about the economy. I want to go to a freaking private college that teaches me about Jesus and how I can get closer to God. I think that's more important than my life. Trying to teach me how to be a
oh,
competitive global labor person. No, I want to know what I need to do to get to the afterlife.
oh yeah, there's plenty of colleges like that, particularly in the South.
Well, you know what? I'm actually going to pick on something right now. I actually didn't even think about even mentioning this in this episode, but you know what? I think this is a huge thing that I'm going to fucking call out right now. So I'm going to make an enemy within my state real quick, but that's okay. There's a certain college up here. It's called. I'm name dropping. Here we go. Libel suits are coming in. Hiles Anderson College, and they're paying for a degree. I've worked with a lot of these guys who go to Christian First Baptist Church in Hammond, and they go through the college. So they come around the country. It's a very prestigious religious school, I guess, or whatever. But these kids are forced to pay $1,200 a month for a certificate and a diploma at the end of their 4 years of working very hard to get an education that they feel will benefit them. And it's worth absolutely nothing. It's worth absolutely nothing at the end of it. If you want, it's based in the matter of fact, and I guess, but I think it's still wrong. They're supposed to go into the clergy. They're supposed to start new churches. They're supposed to spread the faith throughout the world and all that stuff. But if they needed to get a job and a good job to sustain themselves, and that diploma that they invested so much of their money in, it's not going to do anything for them if they want to take it outside their religion. I think that's incredibly fucked up.
Oh,
I think that's incredibly fucked up because A lot of these guys, I mean, I met a lot of these guys. I am not a Christian by far. I criticize the Christianity religion all the fucking time. I am the number one enemy of the religion as a whole. But I will never ever say that I'm an enemy of a person. I have many close people that I talk to on a daily basis that I keep professional relationships all the time who are deeply religious people. They're people with families. They're people just like me. They have different ideologies as me. That doesn't mean I can't work side by side with them because they put in the same effort. These guys and these kids, they're very hardworking people, and a lot of them, they're very freaking smart. But for some reason, they feel indulged into working for a piece of paper that technically will not benefit them if they want to do something on their own. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So yeah,
Don't even get me started on a college that, I mean, did you say it cost over 1,000 a month?
it's $1,200 a month. That's more than what I pay in rent to try to just live.
Oh my
And not only that,
gosh.
they have to pay for whatever car that they have, transportation. They have to pay for food, which is not even included in this. It is a ridiculous amount of money for such a shabby. I've been to the building. I know people. I know professors there personally who are. I wouldn't pay these people a fucking cent to have a conversation with them on the street corner, let alone them trying to be a professor and fucking give me homework. Fuck that. Fuck that, dude. These guys are, man, I don't want to call anybody out, man, but to call yourself a professor when you try to line yourself up with the greats out there who actually really care about, education and data and science and knowledge and truth and understanding, and you want to be compared, no, you don't even deserve to share the same title. I really truly believe in my heart that that's a ripoff. It's a fucking ripoff. Somebody's capitalizing off on that.
Yeah. I mean, that should be shut down, quite frankly.
I fucking 100% agree.
But yeah, I mean, like, to a certain extent, it's up to people to use their own discretion and avoid, just
That's true. That's true. Yeah, we can't take apart, self reliance and self understanding. I mean, at the end of the day, I guess if they like it, I guess it's just the way of America. But I feel really bad, because a lot of them they come to understand at the end of it is like, wow, what did I really do?
yeah,
Well, you were saying
that
too, we were getting into the whole fact of, well, I think I was trying to get the whole fact of, I view for profit colleges as what you would consider, I always forget the term, the religion people that are on late at night who like are like, oh, give God some money and you'll get like $10,000 back or something.
oh, televangelists.
Televangelists and stuff like I pitch them like that, like they're preying upon people who like they want something out of life, they want to be successful and they want to do things and they have earnest intentions. But I think they're being preyed upon by predators who understand that all they see is dollar signs. I really look at for-profit colleges like that.
Well, yeah, that's precisely what for-profit colleges are. Like, those are the worst. I I don't even fuck with for-profit colleges. I don't because I've heard very little good coming from any of them. A lot of them, like you said, are diploma mills, um, and they're milking the federal government. I mean, the tuition at these things are so high. Like, we're talking, some of them are $15,000 a year. I mean, you can go to some private colleges for less than that.
Right on. That's a very good point.
Yeah, I mean, no, I don't think very highly of for-profit colleges at all. In fact, I, I honestly, I mean, I'm not gonna just paint them all with a brush, but I think the vast majority of them should be, I mean, not shut down per se, but the federal government shouldn't be giving loans to these schools to help subsidize their insanely high tuition costs. Nah, it's a waste.
No, that's 100% waste of money. And I mean, we have already had this conversation before, but privatization just should not touch the education system, and it should not touch the healthcare system.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, we need government spending. We need government to be involved in our education system. to sit here and act like big business is a good thing and it's moral and it's ethical and it cares about you is fucking insane. It does not happen. That does not happen. And if it does, you got a rare case on your hands.
Exactly.
So we need to understand something, okay? So what are other countries doing, man? Because you told us about Germany, which is fucking fantastic. You sent me something. I think it was on Finland, correct?
Yes.
Where
Yes.
they actually put you through for bare minimum price to get you a master's degree, and then after that,
Well,
you
it goes up
said
to a bachelor's.
a bachelor's. Okay.
For okay, well, it'll go all the way up to masters for members of the EU. So if you're a European Union citizen, it's completely free. But if you're outside of the EU, then it'll go up to a bachelor's,
Oh, right
which is
on.
pretty good.
That is really cool.
And yeah, like if you look at statistics pertaining to Finland, you'll see that they're extremely good in every way. The population is obviously incredibly intelligent because they do well in every subject. We're talking from high school because not only do they have this fantastic college system where everybody in the country, every resident of the country goes free. Not only that, but every resident of the EU, so all those other countries can go there free. And then everybody in the world can go and get up to a 4-year degree for free. Not only do they have that, but their high school system is unique. And I've only barely touched the surface of studying that, but it's supposed to be unbelievably successful and one of the best in the world. So.
Well, there we go. I mean, we should try to be our best to try to model after certain aspects of that. You know what I mean? Like, what are we doing that they are not doing, or what are they doing that we're not doing? Certain aspects of that, and all right. So yeah, Lee, me and you, we've been discussing like ways that other countries do it, obviously, and apparently they're doing it a little bit better than us. Now, one topic that we haven't covered yet, but we laid the foundation for, is student loan debt, and these statistics are insane. They're affecting a vast majority of American college students.
Well, not just students, but we're talking people who have been out of college for years and decades in some cases. I've literally heard stories of decades.
Right on. Yes, so this debt follows you for a very, very long time. Right now, we have $1.26 trillion in total U.S. student loan debt, which that ranks very, very high on the whole debt.
Yeah, second only to medical debt.
Holy shit. So yeah, we can definitely cover that. But I mean, also we have 43.3 million Americans with student loan debt. The average monthly student loan payment for a borrower aged 20 to 30 is $351 a month. Holy shit, dude! That's so much money.
Jeez.
That's
Yeah,
so much money, man.
it's a huge fucking issue because I mean it's bigger than credit card debt. The amount owed by the country far bigger, far bigger than mortgage debt, obviously. Um, According to any statistics, it's literally second only to medical debt.
Holy shit, man. So we have roughly a yearly 1.3 million students graduating with that. That's an increase of zero point 0.2 million from 2008. So we see this issue. It's obviously growing, and it's obviously getting way more out of control than we want to. This is basically an underlying factor of if you want to get an education in this country, you have to literally be a serf in some sort of weird way. Like you gotta. It's sort of like I don't. No, but it's kind of like a form of indentured servitude. When you say that, or
Yeah, well, it's pretty close. I mean, in a lot of ways, it's like the approximation. Um, because I mean, obviously, the vast majority of people can't afford just to pay for their entire college education, or even a fraction of it, really, because of the insane prices that prices of tuition that we covered earlier. There's just no way. I mean, I've read statistics that it was 58% of student loan debt is um, belongs entirely to people in the lowest socioeconomic, you know, range. And I can't remember exactly what that range is, but I don't know.
well,
Maybe it'll come to me.
it's basically like the poorest among us. You know, they always suffer in these climate wars and educational battles. Obviously, the first to die in military expenditures, and yeah, so that's a sad fact of our society. The poor always suffer more than anybody else, and unfortunately, we see it here. You know, and this is America. You know, obviously, it's been beaten down our throats. It's a place of opportunity, and why are the people who are deserving of the opportunity more so than other people in certain aspects? Why are they ladled with certain things that really hinder them from becoming and reaching full potential and making a big impact on their society?
That's a good question. Honestly, like basically, it seems to me like every single obstacle that can be put in front of low-income American is there. It's been put there. I mean, like you got conservatives saying things like, "Well, I paid for it myself when I was in college."
Oh man. Oh man. I want to bet somebody $1 million that try to work a minimum wage job 40 hours a week and put yourself through a good college. It's not going to happen.
Right,
It's not going
because
to
I mean,
happen.
like, because it they talk like the tuition costs have like been adjusted based on inflation, but that's not true. That's not how it works. Tuition isn't tied to anything. It's literally gone up to an insane degree, and yet, despite that, college students who are trying to get a degree aren't promised decent jobs. They're, in fact, the best most undegreed people can get during college are jobs like, McDonald's, or, just at minimum wage, or, marginally better paying jobs. So that argument doesn't even work.
Well, no. Here's the thing, and you can point out these the false fallacies of pull yourself up by your bootstrap theories because they fail to stand on their own. How hard is it to be a person in your middle 40s or 50s and take just a simple look at the difference between how you grew up and how the next generation is growing up, and this whole idealism from that standpoint is like, well, you can do it yourself and stuff like that. Like, so you're saying me taking out a loan and being a slave to a bank is doing it by myself? What if I really want to work and put myself through college? Isn't that more gratifying? Isn't the ability to actually pay money that you actually have and actually own for something, for a service that you're getting, like an education, isn't that more gratifying? Isn't that more like a building of self-respect? Isn't that more of like a what kind of man that we like, we all dream of being, is the person that can handle things on their own? Because I feel really bad for people who don't really have very good families that can help them out in certain financial troubles. And if education is such a huge financial burden for people who don't have that strong family backing of solid, good income, and they're people who grew up in very low places, or they're the people that grew up in maybe right even next to you, and they're just as smart as you, maybe smarter. They're just as tough as you, maybe even tougher. And they deserve a fair shot. But just because that their family doesn't have a big enough number in the bank account means that now their life has to take a hit because of that. And that's not what America is. Those people who talk about those bootstraps pulling up, it's not an even playing field. And the false sense of people saying that's an even playing field, that's a lie.
Yeah, it's a complete lie. It's based on nothing. I mean, like you can look at the cheapest colleges in the country, the cheapest public colleges, and an undegreed person just there's almost really no way an undegreed student can possibly pay for that. I mean, alone, there's just no way because the whole idea, like I mentioned earlier, is getting a degree. So you're not going to pay for your education with a good job. You're going to pay for it with the job you can get. Not only that, but it's going to be the job relatively close to the campus you're attending.
Excellent point. Very excellent point. Yeah. It's not like you can like fill out an application and be like, let me put my resume out there in America and see if I get a good job somewhere else that doesn't I can't go to college for. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's what you're basically saying. So you're creating this whole system where the students, they feel trapped. They feel like, number one, they in order to worry about a college education for now, if you don't get 100% like you know,
Scholarship.
thank you, brain fart. But yeah, if you don't get 100% scholarships, you have to, number one, be worried about the ladle of burden financially on your life. You have to understand the fact that you're probably going to have to stay in your state and not be able to travel and see things that you probably would never seen and did things that you probably would never done. Then you got to worry about, oh my God, how's the college going to be, the coursework. Then you got to worry about the cost of living. I mean, it's just like you're making it impossible, and you're making you're not really making a good environment for a student to prosper.
Hell no. Exactly. Exactly. Like, there's all these obstacles here, like the fact that the tuition skyrockets for out-of-state students, that we mentioned. That's just one massive obstacle. But like, look at these other countries like Germany, obviously, or Argentina, where you can get a free college education up till you complete your bachelor's degree. You can you're not restricted at all by to a certain extent, but I mean you can go wherever you want and attend whichever college if you get admitted, and you don't have to worry about the tuition. So you can pretty much have a shit job, or I mean, you have to have some sort of income, but you can basically do it without all this government subsidy. Like in the U.S., we have in the defense of the federal government, they will cover a lot of the expenses in some cases. Like you mentioned scholarships, and those are oftentimes from the school itself or other places, but we got federal aid, and quite frankly, especially in Mississippi, but this is probably true everywhere else too. Like we got schools where 90% of the students are getting some sort of federal aid, so that's very positive.
That is very positive. I mean, there's an attempt on the government to obviously make sure that some people get an adequate information, but or education, but it's a mere fact of there's just this fucking weird thing going on. This really weird thing in politics and in private sector where it's just like, fuck, I can't even put my finger on it, man. You know?
Well, yeah, I mean, like it's still not ideal at all. I mean, let's take the Atlantic at face value, and assume that 62 billion would cover it. And of course, there are variables. There's always variables. Like for example,
Oh wow, 62 billion?
yeah, it's apparently it would only cost 62.6 billion to cover every single student's tuition at a public university. So that wouldn't necessarily cover everybody's tuition. However, I think if the government did decide to, do that for every single public school or, public college in the country, I think it's safe to say that the public universities would have to come down to an extent. But even that put aside, the public universities in this country are more than good enough. So if those were made free, then that would enrich the population infinitely. And I mean, 62.6 billion sounds like it's just unfathomable or whatever, but I mean, like some years in Iraq alone cost more than that. Like we're talking, the expenditures in the Iraq war add up to trillions. And, we got Afghanistan, we got all these other conflicts in a single year could cost more than, 62 billion. So, I mean, we go, it takes us back to priorities, really. I mean, like, is college important, or is invading Iraq and overthrowing Saddam and generating a vacuum which would lead to ISIS, is that important?
Yeah, you just hit the nail on the head. I mean, that should be honestly the title of this podcast is priorities. Undoubtedly, like we hear stances all the time from the right, including people from Donald Trump's party all the time. I mean, when Bernie was campaigning on that, you don't know how many people who were Trump supporters when I was working for the Bernie campaign that were literally calling me a socialist pig. You are a un-American, unpatriotic piece of trash. I mean, just the hate and venom, and it doesn't affect me because I really don't give a shit. But it's just like I don't understand. Like you just put that in a context. Like you could just see that. Like yes, is 60 like people just don't understand the context of numbers. Is $62 billion a big number? That's a very fucking big number. But when you put it into the context on like a federal government that is supposed to be a government for 320 million people, that number is actually relatively small when you come to a whole entire year of budget. So yeah, is $62 billion a huge lump sum? Well, listen, if I can pay, which I do pay taxes on every single minute and hour that I work in this country, gladly I will pay these taxes. But the only thing that I ask is that these taxes are funneled into proper and good resources. Do I really think and did I really want some of my 60 plus $billion a year of a lot of people's tax money going into an invasion of a foreign country that actually made the world a less safer place? We can debate that all night long. We can all have different opinions. We can all have different sides to that conflict. No doubt about it. But I would rather not even have the debate. I'd rather not even talk about the topic. And I'd rather filter the money into an education that's going to make people better. It's going to make a better people. It's going to make a better culture. It's going to bring more understanding. It's going to bring stronger, tighter communities. So, like, there's no like if you're on a weight scale and you realize the cost benefit analysis between a war in Iraq or an education, a free education for people, how is that a debated topic? How do you sit there on a moral, ethical high ground? I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're black, white, Mexican. I don't care if you come from the poorest neighborhoods. I don't care if you come from the richest neighborhoods. How can you sit there on a moral and ethical high ground and argue that? My money is paying for a war that I don't agree with. Your money is paying for a war that you do agree with. Okay, cool. We can level with that. We can leave that alone. But if you can't come down to the drawing table and be like, what can we do to make America better? The first thing on your mind should be education and the health of your citizens. Undoubtedly. How is that debated? How is that misunderstood? How is that misrepresented in a culture where we just love the fact our military so much? And I'm not even saying anything against the military. I love it. I thank it. It's cool. It's great. But for some reason, we have this sick ideological, just worshiping soldiers, worshiping war, worshiping guns, worshiping bigger bombs, and we don't have this awesome fantasy like other countries have, like in the Europe of higher education, higher learning, better citizens, more productive in civil government and private business ownership and personal. I mean, it's just there's something wrong philosophically, morally, and ethically. I don't know how you feel about that.
I mean, I definitely do agree. I mean, there's a lot of things to take into consideration. Like, for example, okay, so Europe doesn't pay nearly as much um, for defense spending. It's sort of, to an extent, relies on the U.S. supposedly for its defense. And so that frees it up for, education. But I don't. I mean, that's the way I hear it explained from time to time. But I mean, I, I don't see why we really even have to have that strong a defense. To be honest with you, I mean, I'm not anti-military. I got plenty of family members in the military, and I think in the past the U.S. military has done great things. I think it's done less great things, and in certain occasions, very bad things. But like, I think it's safe to say that we can scale back. I mean, the Cold War is over. Our threats don't seem that dangerous to me. I mean, Iran, I don't even consider Iran a threat. I mean, I feel like there's a decent chance they're funneling money, to groups that are hostile to the U.S., but I don't feel like uh, dedicating a massive chunk of the federal budget is necessary for dealing with Islamic groups in Iran or,
Well,
other places.
yeah. When you take a look at the hypocrisy of that, Saudi Arabia is known for doing that. They're known for funneling money into terrorist organizations, and yet we're not denouncing our relations with Saudi Arabia. So it's just like if you just understand, just get a concept of what's truly going on. It's very hypocritical.
Right. I mean, you see, like the budget. I I don't feel like the military expenditure has to be as high as it is. So let's say hypothetically we cut back considerably, although I'm not even sure that's entirely necessary. I mean, we could go even further hypothetical and say the Iraq War never happened. Imagine how easily we could have subsidized that money into the education. I mean, let's say 62 billion doesn't cover it, which it may not, because there's variables like the amount of people who actually go to colleges. But even if we did put that 62 billion in, to make it clear, we have these systems in place, and they actually cost more than 62 billion. But therefore, federal aid and Pell Grants, and the system is bureaucratic and is convoluted, and it doesn't seem efficient at all. It really seems like we could change certain things and we could subsidize far more than we are and make college far more accessible for the general population, even if not completely free. I'm more than content with. I mean, okay, so for example, if you look at the cost of a community college, that's a reasonable tuition. Um, that's a reasonable tuition, but if you look at just a standard public university, that's not what I consider reasonable. That's the type of stuff you either have to get massive scholarships for, you have to, you basically have to use your parents' or grandparents' money for that. I mean, there's just no way to pay for that.
Undoubtedly, man. So, basically, like I said, the whole message of this podcast is just priorities, priorities, priorities. There's really no one problem that covers this. There's really no one person or one thing to blame. We're so obsessed in this culture, in my opinion, that we would like to blame things on just like one person, like Obama fucking sucks, and we all just will blame Obama for everything. And I guess, but let's not even touch that. But yeah, so priorities, priorities, priorities. We got 3 minutes left in this podcast. Let's give these people something that they can try to either learn more about the subject or a place they can go to join the fight for it or something that we can do to try to make some good progress here in this atmosphere.
Okay. Well, I want to start by saying that Jill Stein's position on student loans is they should be completely forgiven. Um, that's a pretty great stance, in my opinion. But you tell me. But at the same time, she doesn't have a realistic chance. So the only real option here is Hillary. And Hillary has actually moved to the left on this issue. And if you have student debt and you choose Trump over Hillary, you are not acting in your best interest because Hillary has put out a proposal which would give you nearly free community college. That's 2 years. It's an associate's degree. That's half of your bachelor's. Nearly free, and you have to work a minimum of 10 hours a week. So, I mean, I don't know if that would pass. I would hope it would, considering she would be the president of the United States, and she has to give us something. But, that's better than Trump's proposal, which doesn't exist, and, if it did, would be shitty to begin with.
Yeah, exactly, 100%. Yeah, 100% agree. Yeah, I love that was one of the best ideals in his blessed platforms was Bernie Sanders' platform with trying to make college more affordable. He was very, very straightforward on that, and he tried to make that a center for his platform. And I'm glad that conversation was started by him because that pushed Hillary to the left and to where she is now. Because before she really didn't, share that view. But hey, she's at least a reasonable person that can see problems that are rising in the country and at least try to acknowledge the fact that they're there instead of a Trump who is just going to pretend that the problem doesn't exist or that we're all just a bunch of pussies and we don't know what the fuck to do because we're all useless. So either way, Trump's ideals are just fucking out of whack and out of touch with society and out of touch even with himself. He's a loathsome human being. But so yeah, man, I would just tell people just to go out, do some research on your own. I feel really bad for you, man, if you're in one of these situations where you have a total student loan debt destroying your life. I would totally go to studentloanhero.com and get in touch with some of those people over there. It seems like they do a lot of great work for students, and they're at least trying to make college. Trying to bring the conversation to the main stage in the American public, and you can't stop. There's a lot of people in your favor. There's a lot of people who are acknowledging this problem, and there's a lot of people who are trying to fight for the problem. So you're definitely not alone. There's a huge community out there that are trying to support each other and trying to make sure that we figure this out, and this is not just put on the back burner for another 4 to 8 years. So I'm looking forward to that. Like I said, just get more educated. Try to join one of those education systems. There's also another website you guys can go to, which is education, edreformnow.org. It's another kind of I don't really know if you would call a think tank, but it's gathering of data, gathering of studies to try to understand what is truly happening in the education system. Do you have any final words, Lee?
Uh, you know, um, I want to add in. I forgot to mention this, but Obama has been decent on this subject, and he has attempted to make things better. I mean, he's the guy who first brought the idea of 2 years of college free into the mainstream. So there are politicians trying to make things better for students who are struggling. So there is hope. I just wanted to add that there is hope on the left. Not so much if Trump wins.
Yeah, exactly. And we need to do everything that we need to do to stop that. And yeah, guys. So education is key for yourself, for the world, for your life, for your family, for your children. Education is everything. And the world of information is always at your fingertips. Do not take it for granted because you are not guaranteed that it's going to be there tomorrow. That's some sort of weird prophetic thing for me, but yes, that's a thing that we don't need to take advantage of. Love all you guys. I'll see you guys next week. Thank you, Lee, for being on and helping me out with this. I look forward to more conversations to come, brother, because we talk about crazy things. And yeah, so start the dialogue. Let me know what you guys think. I want to hear from you guys. All right, love you. All right, good night.